Come on into the ditch. I'm your resident ditch witch, Tara Tyne, and we're about to get witchy, whether you like it or not. This week it's all about the baubles, and I am excited and delighted to have been invited by the good folk over at the Escape to Chateau de la Lande Facebook fan group to contribute a craft how-to to their Christmas inspiration series, which sounds absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to see what everyone comes up with. As you can see, I am wearing my willow pattern jumper, which some of you may recognise from the group, just especially for this occasion because I'm so honoured to be doing this, and I'm feeling particularly inspired by these scraps that my mum brought back from a trip to Nice a few years back. She has used them in some of the headpieces that she makes, but these were scraps that haven't been used, so I slid in there and rescued them. So today we're going to use these scraps to make a bauble from a polystyrene ball. Here's what you're going to need: a polystyrene ball, 3 elastic bands, some scraps of your favourite fabrics, a small scrap of plain cotton, a craft knife, a hot glue gun or another similar adhesive, a dinner knife, a permanent marker, and whatever braids and trims you can dig up from around the house. So to begin with, we take our first elastic band, we wrap it around. There's usually a vague sort of a guiding line on a polystyrene ball, and it's very, very, very faint here. It's like the seam where the two halves of it join, so try your best and line up your first elastic band with that. So I'm working mainly with stuff that I have in the house here. I'm actually using hair ties instead of elastic bands, and they're quite slippery on the polystyrene, but if that's all you have, they will do the job. So then you're going to want to put your second elastic band on sort of as if you're making segments, you know, of an orange. This is trickier than it looks. Okay, and then we're going to put our third one on. That one goes on pretty simply. So you're going to want to look at it sort of top and bottom and see if it is kind of evenly segmented. Okay, and I think that is roughly kind of correct now. So the next thing we do is roll it around on the elastics, kind of being careful not to roll the elastics off their positioning. And the idea is that the elastics will push down into the polystyrene and create grooves, and we're going to use those as our guidelines. Okay, and then we take off our elastics, and you see we've got excellent grooves there. So for the first time round, we are going to take our permanent marker, and you should have your scrap of cotton to hand here as well. You need to kind of do this bit kind of quickly, so we're going to go around one segment, say one segment of the orange in permanent marker. And then we are going to push the cotton down on top of it to get the ink to transfer and make a nice rough shape of the segments that we are going to need to cover this. You then cut out around that, leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance roughly. The next thing we are going to do is to take our craft knife and we are going to cut down these sections, every one of them about, this is kind of the smaller sized bowl, so cutting about maybe 1 centimetre into it, there or thereabouts. You can also do this with the blade of a pair of scissors, but it doesn't leave a very clean line. Squeaky squeaky. So when we have that all done, we can set the ball aside for 1 minute, and then we are going to need to use our template. I've just redrawn out another one. My original one was a bit of a funny shape. Then we are going to use that as a template to cut out some scraps of our chosen fabric. So you've got, 6 segments around this, so you can either do 2 different kinds of fabric alternating around it, or you can also get away with 3. And I always say, if you can get away with 3, why would you stick with 2? We take our dinner knife, we position the fabric on over the first of the segments, and then we proceed to push it down into the cracks using the flat of the blade. The great thing about this is that it's a way of using scrap fabric without having to sew. You can see there that first one has gone in very, very nicely. Now what you do with the 2 ends, top and bottom, is you trim those off rather than trying to shove them down. Just be careful not to cut too much if you haven't shoved it in properly at the top, or you can end up with gaps. Okay, that has worked pretty nicely. And so you continue on around until you end up with something like this. Now, a lot of the tutorials on the internet will just leave it at that with the edges kind of rough, but a lot of those are using cotton, and I don't know if you can see up close, but I have a few little kind of fraying threads and stubborn edges sticking out here. So, I mean, apart from anything else, if there's an option to pile a load of glue on something for security, I'm always the one for doing that. The next thing then that we are going to need is our whatever trim or braid that you're going to use for the top for a loop, and also whatever trim or braid you are going to use to secure the lines between the segments. Now also I've got my glue gun heating here, so if you're crafting along with me, hit pause and get your glue gun switched on and heating. Now, so after tying a knot in that, what we do then is we put our loop for the top in first, and we decide which side is going to be our top. In my case, it will be my messiest one. By the way, you should always take it for granted on this channel when I say to get out a glue gun or some super glue that you are also going to need a cocktail stick and some kitchen roll, because things get messy in the ditch. That is what we have so far, which is absolutely a beautiful decoration by itself, but you know, it's Christmas. It's time to be extra about things. The next thing we are going to do is, I didn't actually have any braid which was the correct size for these baubles. So what I did was I took some of this stuff and I plaited 3 strands of it to make a thicker braid, which is just the perfect size for between these segments. Very carefully, one line at a time, slowly and carefully. Oh, and on camera, So you can see, and we stick the knot at the top. We pull the braid down, trying to, in my case, trying to keep the plait all pointed the same way, all facing the same way, so it's nice and flat. And then for tidiness sake, I like to come along again with my cocktail stick, try and just get that knot in there, and then we can do a little trim. Don't worry, we're going to put a bow on top as well to hide any mess that we've left up there. And then we continue on around.
Just for fun.
It is very difficult to make these without getting glue all over your fingers. It's everywhere.
Another year came around. Take stock of what's left and lost and run aground.
And then when you come to the very last knot, just get that in. Give it a trim. And it's quite tidy, but we're just going to go another little bit on it and add a bow at the top. This is a bow that I made from some trim I had earlier. Again, just one more dot of glue. Hold that on, let it dry, and you can see we've got a perfectly lovely bauble made from really luxurious scraps. And another idea is if you want to add a tassel, like on this one I made earlier, what you do is you again just tie a knot on the tassel, shove it into the gap at the bottom with a little bit of glue, and also you're going to want to do that when you're putting on this top tie. So before you put on your braid, because that will hide any number of sins. So that is baubles with cabbage, a little touch of chateau inspired luxury for your Christmas. I hope you like. And do be sure to pay me a visit on my channel if you would like to see some more cozy crafting. Hit subscribe for more fun and witchy adventures. I upload every Thursday and I'm going to do my level best to upload 2 videos every week for the whole month of December. Slán agus Bannacht. Goodbye and good luck to you.